All right, everyone. This is Christopher Prosch with Veterans for America First Chaplain Corps podcast. This is, I believe, our seventh episode. Today, we have an excellent guest star with us, Mr. Frank Panico. He is a phenomenal filmmaker, documentarian. He's worked with amazing organizations like NTD, Epoch Times. So, Frank, take it away.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it. Yeah, everything's going really well. Sam and Kevin Sorbo work with me. I work with them sometimes. My latest film is titled Transrec. I just thought I'd say right off the bat, if one wanted to see the film, um, you can go to my website for $7 donation at transrecmovie.com. But it's also showing on Epoch TV. OAN is airing it. Salem Now is airing it. So it's like my 10th film. I've done a pro-life film. I've done one before this called Systematic Deception. Newsmax is airing it. They'll probably air Transrec too. But Transrec, you can probably guess what it's about. It's about the harms of the transgender movement. So really proud of it. I think it's my best work. All the glory goes to God. And it's meant to expose the harms of the transgender movement, how it's being hoisted upon our children, and how the biggest thing to me is that I learned through Walt Heyer. He I don't want to say was a woman. He lived the lie of thinking he was a woman for like 30 years before he. And I don't even want to say detransition because you never transition because you can't. But he did retransition back to being a man. And now he has a website called Sex Change Regret, and he goes out and speaks to people, and they contact him for help because a lot of times it is a big regret. But the thing is it's just all one big lie.
Yeah.
Because like even the word like to transgender, like if there's someone says you're transgender, you're like no you're not, because you can't change your sex no matter what you do. Males have the XY chromosome, females have the
Nope.
XX, and that's why when people dig up bones in anthropology, they can
Yes.
tell if it's a man or woman. So it's just all a big lie, you know? And then they had that trans woman that just went to the White House. I'm glad Biden had a chance to talk with that. That was an important meeting. It's not like we have issues on the border or anything. Let's meet with this, lunatic transgender person. And she was bashing men, pretending like, oh, this is my first day as a woman, so now I'll cry, and I'll spend a lot of money online with my credit card, and like, where are these feminists sticking up
Yep.
for women? It's insane. But yeah, so I'm moving ahead in my filmmaking, and I'm looking forward. I'm doing another documentary right now. I'm just starting it, and I got an interview with Bishop Schneider. He's kind
Hmm.
of up there on the upper echelon of the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
When I went to the interview, like people were like kissing his hand and calling him Your Excellency. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, dude, you're a rock star. But it's going to be, I know I might exclude some people from this, but I don't care. It's going to be about our Blessed Mother Mary, and kind of trace what she went through and all the misconceptions about people saying that Catholics worship Mary. No, we don't. We ask her to pray for us, and other misconceptions like, why do you pray to dead people? Well, she's not dead, she's alive. And it's just going to touch base on that. I think God's leading me that way. But with all my films, I just kind of ask God and hopefully get an idea, like, would it be approve of my film that I'm putting out, what messages conveyed. Like, for instance, the one I did called Leaders for Life was about how abortion is bad and you're killing babies. Of course God would be happy with that.
Mhm.
And the last one, Systematic Deception, was about how we're divided by race and we're all created in God's image and we have to unite. Of course God would be happy with that. And now I'm doing one that says, don't mess with my creation, don't cut off my creation's body parts. Don't try and change the sex that I created you. So I'm sure God is happy with that also.
Yeah, absolutely, Frank. I mean, you're 100% right. The left is so violent against absolute truths. They want everything to be relative, to be no absolutions whatsoever. And the notion that, women can be men and men can be women is some of the largest bunch of nonsense I've ever heard. I mean, the church needs to step forward and say respectfully and lovingly, no, you're wrong. God created men and women equal but different for very specific different functions. And the left has basically co-opted this belief that different means bad, means less than. And that's not necessarily true. Different can be a good thing. And again, men and women were created equally but differently for very specific functions and roles that God created them for. And that's the narrative, that's the truth that we should be pushing forward. And I don't really see the church really doing that. They're kind of just, bending again to the woke nonsense. I mean, we're having Catholic parishes, we're having Protestant churches having drag queen shows. I'm like, oh my word. Honestly, what's really happening, Frank, is these churches that are really bending to the will of the woke mob, they're giving into the gods of Baal. And what's funny is I'm pretty sure about a third of the Bible talks about, hey, stop doing that. That's a false god. I mean, he was the Canaanite god of fertility, and and back in old Jewish times, people would go to the temples, and there would be temple prostitutes there for the god of Baal of fertility. So it's just, it's amazing how far we have not come in the past 6,000 years. But anyway, Frank, I really appreciate you coming here. Today, guys, we're talking about truth, we're talking about propaganda, we're talking about lies. So Frank is like I said, he's a fantastic filmmaker, excellent expert when it comes to media. So today we're going to be focusing a little bit more on midterm elections. So as we all know, the midterms are 2 weeks away, and it's getting nasty out there. The top five, if you will, is Arizona, Nevada, of course, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and a little bit, surprisingly, New Hampshire. So, Frank, I want to hear your thoughts about those.
Yeah, well, first of all, you can't really trust the polls because,
Yeah.
because, for instance, if someone called and they were polling and said, "Would you support Trump or would you support Biden?" Most people in their heart who would support by Trump, excuse me, by my tongue, would never say, "Oh, I'm supporting Trump," because they'll be attacked and there'll be some shenanigans going on, and we won't tell you that we're supporting Trump. How they'll tell you that they're Republican is by showing up and voting. Because we're not stupid. Americans aren't stupid. We don't trust. We don't trust the media. We don't trust the polling people. And it's just insane what's going on, especially like Fetterman. Uh, you know, God bless him. I'll try and I pray for him, but he shouldn't be running. He opened his statement by saying, "Good night, ladies and gentlemen." I mean, that should have been the end of it. Yeah. And then I just heard in is it the Arizona race with Katie Hobbs and Carrie
Pretty
Lake?
like, yeah.
Yeah. So Katie Hobbs was saying that someone from Carrie Lake's gang joined in and broke into her campaign headquarters, and they just found out it was not such a thing. It was some homeless freak. So
Uh,
they're just and the other one that really stuck out in my mind is, you know a lot about this than I do probably, but in the Michigan race where Gretchen Whitless, I call her,
yeah.
what she was saying, like the schools were only closed down for a few months. And I'm like, oh my God, can you lie a little more? And that's like Biden saying, which I caught right off the bat, that gas was $5 a gallon when he took office. I'm like,
Yeah, I know.
what planet were you on? But yeah, there's a lot of deception going on. My film before this is called Systematic Deception. And it's the way that the Democrats lie to the black community to keep them in their party,
Yeah.
which very much happens. Yeah.
Oh no, it's 100% right. I mean, that's it. I'm just amazed that the Democrats have just completely gone from not even trying to manipulate the public anymore, just flat out lying about just, again, absolute truths. I mean, Biden took office. I mean, I know in my state of Iowa, and my family's, where they live in South Dakota, Minnesota, gas was $1.80, $1.90 before he took office. And so it's just, I mean, obviously that's not a national average, but in more rural states, we were loving what the previous
It was
administration.
like $2, a little more, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, it's just,
that was
oh my gosh, it's just these people though. They have absolutely no idea what they're talking about in any capacity. And I just,
yeah. One
uh,
thing that was amazing to me, I think it was MSNBC, and for some reason the editor's probably fired because it aired. There was a town hall, and that one blonde woman who works for them, and they were discussing January 6th. And she was saying something like, "Don't they deserve to be prosecuted?" And they're like, "No." And she's like, "Well, people died." And the woman's like, "No, they didn't. The only one that died
Yeah.
was a white Trump, unarmed Trump supporter veteran." Like, "Oh no, but cops died." And the other guy's like, "No, that was like a heart attack the next day." So like they actually let that tape out. It was on TV. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So yeah, to this day they're saying it was an insurrection and people died. First of all, insurrection. I think you get like sentenced to the death penalty if you're guilty of insurrection. You know. So and it's crazy, and they keep saying Biden too. People died. People died. No, they didn't. One person died, and isn't that amazing? I think it was Tucker Carlson or Greg Kelly brought it up. And all of those January 6th hearings saying people died, they never once mentioned Ashley Babbitt, the only
Weird.
person that died at the hands of a police officer, a black Washington police officer who shot and killed her. And it's funny, they talked about the devastation and deaths, but never mentioned her name. It's crazy.
Yep, 100%. And that's why, I believe that we will never see an open public hearing with the January 6th hearings that are happening in Congress. They're trying to subpoena Trump, and what's laughable is this January 6th congressional hearing. They'll never have a public hearing because there's over 20,000 hours of videotape actually out there showing Capitol City Police escorting people into the Capitol, giving them tours of the place. I mean, it's just the barriers were willingly came down. There's strong there's strong rumors that the FBI was actually in the crowd. There are strong rumors. There's phone records of President Trump asking Speaker Pelosi, "Do you want me to bring the National Guard in days before the event for crowd control?" And she said, "No, not necessary." So it's just there. And then what's even more ironic is Republicans will take back the House in 2-3 months, and weird, that congressional J6 committee will go away. So it's completely laughable, and it's all political theater.
Yeah, I hope sometimes, like, listen, we always turn the other cheek, the Republicans, and we take the
Yeah.
high road. We need to start yanking these people in and having our own hearings. Why don't we do to them what they're doing to us?
Yeah.
These people have to be held accountable. 99% of the times they're not going to jail. So let's expose them anyway. Call them in. I believe when the Senate and we win the Senate and the House, we'll have a lot more power to hold these people accountable.
Yeah.
We need to hold these people accountable. And
Yes.
the January 6th was just a big farce. And there
Yeah.
are cities being burnt down, a year earlier, and nobody said anything. And it's all a big double standard. The abortion thing, there are pregnancy care centers getting their houses firebombed, and they don't go after them, but they'll go after the pro-life guy with 7 kids. And it's crazy. And the January 6th thing, like, again, someone in the media, Newsmax pointed it out, but you know how they object to the election, and someone will stand up and say, "I object," and then you need a senator that signed on with you. And most of the time through the past, they're like, "Well, no, we don't have a senator." And like, sit down. Next. Well, this time we had a senator, Senator Cruz, that signed on to the objection. And they were just about to hear that case. And that's when, I think it was like an hour later, that's when all hell broke loose.
Yep.
And I think they let them all in to disrupt that debate because we
Yep.
have an actual senator that signed on. And you should have saw Pence's face when he says, "Yes, I have a senator." He was like, "I was crazy."
Yeah.
So the timing is suspicious. And Nancy Pelosi, like you said, she was offered thousands of people, thousands
National
of
Guards.
military, National Guards, and she turned them down. And they said it was because she didn't like the image of it, the way it would look.
Yeah.
BS. That's not why.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No, and that's what, and again, that's what our whole episodes are about, or just again exposing, the lies, talking truths, talking absolutions, most importantly, biblical truths that God again wants us to get back to. And our government has fallen so far from the truth, and it's especially from what the founding fathers wanted, and that's really what we talk about here. you know
Yeah.
and for this episode, we're really focusing on media lies. So let's shift back to the midterm election here quickly. I have some numbers for you that I wanted to tell you about. So for people at home listening, what's ironic is, and this is something that should be dominating the news cycles, the amount of money that is being spent in these four difficult races. So let's take a look at Nevada. In Nevada, you have the incumbent Democrat, Senator Catherine Marie Cortez Masto, and she's roughly 5-6 points below the former Nevada Attorney General Adam Laxalt. But what's funny though is the incumbent Democrat has over $38 million in fundraising, and the challenger Republican Adam Laxalt has only 13 million. And yet he's beating her by 5 to 6 points, and she has out fundraised him and outspent him 3-1. Let me continue though, because this is going to get really, really hilarious. Arizona, another example. Incumbent U.S. Democrat Senator Mark Kelly has fundraised over $75 million. And Blake Masters, the businessman, Blake Masters, has only fundraised not even $10 million. And they're virtually in a dead heat. Continuing again, this is what's even more embarrassing. Georgia, hilarious. Incumbent Democrat Senator Raphael Warnock has over $110 million that he's fundraised. And Herschel Walker's only fundraised a little over 31 million. This is just an embarrassment. Or even New Hampshire, the small, tiny state of New Hampshire. Incumbent Democrat Senator Maggie Hassan has $30 million fundraised, and Don Bolduc, the veteran up there, has only fundraised over 1.5 million, and they're also in a virtual tie. That's an embarrassment. Democrat Hassan, U.S. Senator Hassan, has out fundraised him 30-1, and they're tied as well. How do the Democrats justify return on investment to their donors? They're killing us in fundraising and money spent, yet almost every election they're tied with us or they're losing, but yet the media will not cover this.
I know it's absolutely insane. In a weird way, it's inspirational because it's showing that the truth will prevail and righteousness will win. And I hope all these Republicans win. And it'll just say, look, it doesn't matter how much money you have, if you're standing with the truth, and God is all about truth.
Yeah.
So if you're speaking truth, God's with you. Getting back a tiny bit, that's why all my films bring it out. The more you expel God, the worse things get. The more you welcome God, the better things get. So in the 60s, when we started taking prayer out, getting rid of the Bible, taking down 10 Commandments, everything just gets worse. A little bit of saving grace we have is this recent Roe v. Wade thing, when we kicked it back. That was God. We might have been saved a little because God kind of put his hand back on America a little. I'm thinking because of that. Yeah. We're moving in the right direction. We need to keep moving in our right direction, and we need to elect righteous people. That's why what you do and others do are very important. I'm starting to learn that. Like with my films, I want to do fundraisers to help righteous Republicans get elected. It's so important because people say don't talk about politics and religion. Those are the two most important things.
Exactly.
Religion is your relationship with God and belief in God. Politics is electing righteous people to run your nation. Yep. These are the most two important things that there is. And especially Michigan, I hope that, is it Tudor Dixon in Michigan? Yep. I totally hope she wins because Gretchen Whitmer was just a disgrace.
Absolutely.
She had that fake kidnapping plot where I think there was like half of the people were with the FBI and one of them was like some bum that they paid to do it. It's crazy. Oh yeah, in her debate, she was like, she had her life was threatened, like, oh, we're all so sorry for you and your gated communities and your security. The elections are just crazy this year.
Mm-hmm. No, they're completely insane. Even and going back to Fetterman too. What baffles me is if Fetterman was a Republican, the media would eviscerate him for being.
Forget it.
For being
crucifixion.
Yeah, they would, because he's too ill. He has too many issues. The fact that he had a stroke earlier this year, the media would have eviscerated him. Kind of like how they treated Trump. If Trump just sneezed wrong, the media would say, "Oh, he's too ineffective. He's too old. He's too sickly." I think President Trump is probably the only president that had to get daily medical exams just to prove how healthy he was.
Yeah. And Biden is hiding it like,
I know.
Crazy. He doesn't want anything known about him. And who's the other one and Fetterman. He's like, I'm not showing nothing. Oh, but he has a doctor's note that says he's fine. We believe you. And the doctor is a Democrat, donated to his campaign.
Weird, yeah, funny. Well, that's what baffles me too. If you go to the FEC online website, what's funny is if you look at Fetterman and Raphael Warnock, these men are getting massive donations from public universities. That's what really baffles me is how can public universities donate money to Democrat candidates? That's what baffles me.
It's not fair. The colleges are just corrupt as hell, and
Yeah.
I mean, I think kids shouldn't even go to college anymore. They're become indoctrination centers.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially something that's the public should not be donating cash to a campaign. And then they kick off, the freedom of speech thing, but not if you're Republican. You're going to get thrown out of our university,
Yeah, Frank, that's what's so funny is like I always love it when Ben Shapiro, I think Ben Shapiro is fantastic. I think he's probably
Yeah,
one of our better debaters we have.
he
But
is.
what's funny about him though is, when he goes to these college campuses, like the best one was when he went to Berkeley, UC Berkeley in California. The students protested and burnt up and rioted about a third of the campus, and they burnt it, they burned it down. And they caused, I think if I remember correctly, they caused like over $3 million in damages. And I'm like, wait a minute, you guys are protesting a Jewish man from speaking openly and honestly at a public university. Okay, got it. Okay, so you're trying to combat fascism with fascism. Got it. Okay, it makes sense.
They're basically showing they're anti-Semitic and destroying their property at the same time. There was another comedian that's a newer comedian. I forget his name. He guy goes to school board meetings and just acts outrageous. I don't know if you know the guy I'm talking about, but
Yeah, a little bit.
yeah, he was at protesting at a school and like smiling and laughing at the camera. He was so funny, and the people around him were screaming like. And it reminded me of when they were stoning Saint Stephen when they were like grinding their teeth and pissed. These students look so pissed, and he's
Yeah.
smiling like this. Some girl, a 16, 18-year-old young girl, full on spit on him. Not even a
Yeah, I
little.
saw that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yes,
I
that's
mean, wait a
all bad.
minute. You get arrested for things
Yep.
like that,
Yep.
right? So that girl should be arrested, and the school didn't condemn it.
Yep.
Total big. It wasn't just like a little spit. It
Yep.
was like,
Well,
and he smiled and laughed and said, "She just spit on me." I'm like, "Whoa, I don't know if I can handle that."
well,
That
Frank,
kind
Frank, I got to tell you, I went to the University of South Dakota, and again, very rural state, very rural town. But speaking of that, that's what's so funny about these college campuses, is these crazy psychos, these Antifa retards, in my opinion, are in every college campus. So when I was back in college a couple of years ago, I remember, I'll never forget this day. I was in an English class, ironic, and that's usually where Antifa people, hide out, is every English department of every major campus. But anyway,
of.
I was sitting there, and it's the day after Trump had just won in 2016. The campus had issued an immediate statement saying, if you feel marginalized, if you feel offended or hurt by what happened last night in the elections, you could go to the local college psychology department for help to talk about. And
Unbelievable.
I flipped out in class. I said, wait a minute. So if Hillary Clinton would have won in 2016, would this university and others like it, would they have offered the same psychological offerings to the conservative students?
That's
And
insane.
and the teacher didn't know what to say. I'm like, exactly. That's
Yeah,
what my problem is.
yeah. And then they, remember how they were like boarding up places and things. You know, they were boarding up for the election, boarding up stores and things for the outcome of the election.
Yep.
And it's just insane. This is such a
Well, but Frank, let's not forget though, what happened immediately after Trump won? What happened? Jill Stein, who was also running for president, colluded with the Democrats, raised over $4 million to challenge the election results because she believed the election was stolen, and so did Pelosi, and so did Hillary Clinton, also the exact same thing. And what they do, they did recounts in Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Maine, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and what they find, Trump actually won more votes than he had previously done.
right, right. I think the absolute best debate line of all time, she'll probably agree with me, is when Hillary was debating Trump and she said, "I thank God that you're not the head of the law enforcement," and Trump goes, "Yeah, because you'd be in jail."
Exactly, I remember
Just like
that. Yeah.
that. It was the best one-liner
Yep.
ever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of,
There's such a double standard. It's crazy.
oh, 100, yeah, 100%, 100%. Let's shift a little bit here now, to more exposing more truths and lies here. So, okay, so what do you think is going to happen heading into, after the midterms? Let's say things go. Let's be realistic here. Let's say things go reasonably well for the Republicans. Let's say we'll get the House, obviously. There's some rumors that we'll get the House by the largest margin in 100 years, which is fantastic. But let's just be realistic in the Senate. Let's say we get one seat. We get one majority, so 51-49 in the Senate. So what do you think is going to happen, just from your opinion, with Trump heading into next year?
Well, I think I'm praying. I'm just going to say we're going to win the House and the Senate. And Trump very soon will announce that he's running.
Yep, I think so.
Um, yeah, I think one thing, not too big on Kevin McCarthy, but it's kind of weird. Like with him, it might just be me, but I've noticed in the last year or so, he's kind of like not animated. He's just very calm and quiet. And I don't know, maybe he's on drugs or something, or maybe I've just never noticed he was so calm. But one thing he'll said that he'd do, and I hope they do, is they will immediately halt the hiring of 82,000 IRS agents. I
80,
mean,
87,000. Yeah.
oh my God. Do you know
Yeah.
what? I worry about that because I am a Christian conservative filmmaker. They
Mhm.
would come after me and see if I dotted my I and crossed my
Yep.
T and look at every single piece
Yep.
of money I ever made in my life.
Yeah.
And you know what? Funny quick story, like through censorship, you know how, of course, I've been taken off of Facebook for a week and all that crap, and in Facebook jail and the censorship, all this stuff. But since my last film I did, I contacted to make DVDs. They were called I forget the name, DVD makers or something. Yeah, and on my synopsis was a short statement about Transrec, the movie, this, that, the other thing, and the last sentence basically said, "The film will inspire you to rise up, and save America from this insidious transgender movement."
Yeah.
So they said they were going to make the DVDs. I sent it, and I had to create it online myself. It took like 6 hours. So I send it to them. I pay them. They say, "Thanks, we got the payment. It'll be a week or two." Then the next day, I got a message from them that said, "We are no longer we halted production of your DVDs because your statement borderlines hate speech."
Yeah.
I'm like,
No.
"What the hell are you talking about?" And I'm looking at the thing. I'm like, the guy's like, "It's in the last paragraph. I had to figure it out." So I'm like, "Okay, look, just take off those last 5 sentences, okay? Try 5 words that says insidious transgender movement." And I mean, I should have said, "Screw you, give me my money back, I'm going somewhere else," but I already did all the work. But they were not going to make my product because I called it insidious. It's insane. The censorship's
Yeah.
insane.
No, I
But
mean,
thank God, Twitter, hopefully things will be going better now.
yeah, with Elon Musk finalizing, his Twitter buyout today, him firing, the CEO and the CFO righteously. I hope he does fall. I hope he does follow through and firing 75% of the staff.
Clean house,
Yeah,
yeah.
completely clean house. Just
Trump
because,
should be happy because the one that he hired was the one that basically said that that kicked him off.
yeah,
So
100%, 100%.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's just my thing. Is just what's funny is these companies who are colluding with the federal government, which was proven with Facebook, admitting that, with Mark Zuckerberg on the Joe Rogan show. But
yeah,
what's funny though is, first off, they have no control over misinformation. Misinformation is whatever they think or feel it is, based not at all in facts at all. I mean, again, Facebook was caught. They said our fact checkers are solely 110% opinion based individuals. So I mean, that's what's so funny. But anyway, before we run out of time here, I do want to focus a little bit more on Trump because this is what's really interesting. I voted for Trump, and I thought his policies were fantastic. Some people didn't care for his character, but I always push back against it. I always say his character should never surprise you. We've known exactly
right.
who he is since the 1970s. Now, my concern is, heading into it, people are saying, well, maybe we just need to move on from him. We need to focus on Ron DeSantis. He's the future of our party. And I agree, yeah. But again, he has things left undone, things left unfinished, and he will have my full support. He's a fan. I mean, like I said, he was a fantastic president. Russia never did anything. They never stepped out of line once. There was financial peace in the Middle East.
North Korea, nothing. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. China never, he forced them into a recession and called their bluff. Our economy was the strongest it ever was, and that's what really offends me about people is how much of a short-term memory in Americans have.
yeah,
2017, 2018, 2019, the best economy we've ever had ever.
right. It's like they say, give me the damn mean tweets. I'm fine with that.
Exactly. Yes.
Just
Yes.
like make America great again.
But I,
Yeah,
but I but I will be honest. I'm a little concerned about the support he's going to get from the party, just because I mean, from people who say Ron DeSantis should be our guy. I love Ron DeSantis. I think he's a
me
great
too.
governor. He's a
I think
great
your
governor.
party's great.
Yeah, he's 100%. I love Ron DeSantis, but there are realities that the GOP has to come to fruition to. I understand that Ron McDaniel and Mitch McConnell may not like Trump. I get it, whatever. But there are realities that Ron DeSantis cannot do. Ron DeSantis can't fundraise $1 billion in 3 months. Ron DeSantis didn't win 80 million votes. And it's just that's just and again, Ron DeSantis is a fantastic guy, but I just don't think he's there yet.
I
So,
agree.
like I said, a little more context. I've spoken with hundreds and thousands of pastors across this country, business owners, from all over the country in multiple states, and this is just their general feelings. And it's just what I'm concerned about is, will the party rally around him in the 11th hour during the election in 2024? And honestly, with Mitch McConnell and Ronna McDaniel, I don't trust that they would do it. Perfect example. Look at Georgia. Herschel Walker is a great candidate running for U.S. Senate, and I think he'll win. And I hope and pray he does. But let's be honest, Herschel Walker is Trump's candidate, and Brian Kemp doesn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I feel exactly like you. Trump, we should all rally around Trump. He has the best chance, even if there was some black horse that came in, whatever, that we need to stick with Trump. He has the best chance, and he has a huge following. And me
yes,
being a Catholic, real Catholic people totally support him. He was our pro-life president.
yes,
He is why Roe v. Wade got overturned. He
exactly.
put in those, was it three Supreme Court
Three. Yep.
justices.
Yep.
That's why it happened. It's
Yep.
basically directly because of him. He
Yep.
showed up at the pro-life rally on stage with Alveda King. No other president showed up at one of those rallies. He's a full-on pro-life candidate, and he's a sinner like everybody. But and plus, here's the thing: he has on-the-job training, and
Yeah.
even on his first 4 years, when he was new at it, he kicked ass.
Mhm.
So just imagine how good he would be now after learning
Well,
so much.
and that's but and 100% right, and that's why I'm so cautious about the establishment Republicans getting around him, because as
Yes.
you and I both know, I felt bad for President Trump just because he had such high turnover rates, because a lot of his staffers, a lot of his appointees, a lot of his secretaries blatantly defied him and went against his wishes. And it wasn't until his last year that he finally had the staff that he always should have had. But it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what really bothers me, which is why I believe now he will
Right.
he will be more selective about who he lets around him. So, and that's
Yes.
and that's, but you're right. I mean, he is 100% the pro-life president. He overturned that disgusting Roe v. Wade abortion ban. And again, let me address that real quick. There are, again, thousands of pastors who feel this way. Roe v. Wade being overturned by the federal government basically returns it back to the states. But
Right.
but most pastors and priests would say, wait a minute, there is no governing authority in a state or in Washington, D.C. that has the authority to dictate what life is or isn't. God decided that over 6,000 years ago. So how dare we allow the states to decide? Because, I mean, to let Arizona, to let Texas, to let Oklahoma, to let New York decide the fate of a child is just as evil and just as bad as Washington, D.C. doing it back in 1972.
Yeah.
The churches should step up and say, no,
They need to.
God's law is supreme. And
They
that's
need to
praying.
step up more. And I'm glad you said that, because even with this transgender issue, like I interviewed this priest, he's awesome, Father Dwight Longenecker, and he couldn't say, well, the church, he said, well, the Vatican and the church hasn't really came out with a statement on it. I'm like, well, don't you think we should, So they should say something. And with the abortion thing, like I understand people will call me extreme, but I'm against, and maybe you're not with it, but I'm against it in all
Yep,
circumstances,
exactly.
even rape and
Yep,
incest.
exactly.
Why kill if it was a rape? Why punish the child and kill that child for the
Exactly.
sin of the father? And as far as rape and incest, just so people know, it's less than 2%. Okay, when people scream this
Mhm.
rape incest thing, it's less than 2%. People are getting it because I don't feel good today. You
Yep,
know,
exactly.
and there's
No,
some major that we could do a whole show on that, but it has
yeah,
major
yeah.
repercussions.
Yeah,
Major,
Frank.
like it causes depression, anxiety. The evil one gets in, forget it.
Yeah, Frank, you're 100% right. The abortion the problem is the left realizes they've lost the argument when it comes to abortion, when it comes to illegal immigration, because the stats are not with them. When it
Yeah,
comes to just abortion, real quick, again, I think it's actually less than 1% is what I've heard of all
yeah.
abortions are
I was
from
being
for
generous.
incest. Yeah.
Generous.
But I
Yeah,
mean, let's be honest, 99% of abortions are based out of convenience. That's all it
yeah,
is. And again, and even in the extreme cases of rape or incest, which are awful, so your solution to a travesty is to have another travesty. Okay, got it.
right. That's what, I brought that up in one of my films. Why go through another traumatic experience after the one you did?
I
And there are
just,
so many people wanting to adopt children. Like, just
yes.
listen, just intervene yourself for 9 months, okay? Have the kid, give it for
Yep.
adoption. You
Yep.
won't be killing somebody, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
It's
The
insane.
child is not at fault. I mean,
Yeah, and they say, oh, it's my body, my choice. No, it's a body inside your body. It's
yep,
not your
exactly.
body.
There is two separate heartbeats. Period. Done. End of story. I
Yeah.
mean, people just don't
Oh my
understand
God,
that.
are you here? There's been new studies. I forget the title. I have to look into it more, but how a baby in the womb puts out cells that help the mother. Have you heard about this? It like
Oh yeah.
protects the mother. It heals any kind of heart problems, and
Yep.
and even after you kill that baby, or those cells are still in you, helping you.
Yep.
So it's pretty amazing. Like, so then on a different subject, like, so Mary actually has some of the DNA or cells of Jesus
Oh
inside
yeah.
her,
Yeah.
So that's an amazing thing about how the baby is fighting to protect the mother who's supposed to be protecting it.
Yeah.
That's the whole
Absolutely.
idea. But yet the mother will just kill it. And my heart goes out to anyone who's had an abortion. Just ask God for forgiveness and mean it, and you will be forgiven and move on. I'm not so, but anyway, on its
Yeah, I
face,
mean, yeah, I mean, for everybody out there, I mean, again, the church has to get back to extreme orthodoxy. What God
yeah.
wants, I mean, God loves us. God, He wants the best for us. But again, He also wants us to repent daily and be obedient to His laws. It's not that complicated. And I don't care what pastor or priest or the woke left says. That's about the basics of it. We need to get back. We
Exactly.
need to get back to Jeremiah and Ezekiel. We need to understand those stories because America's heading down that path. But anyway, Frank,
Right.
anything else you want me to bring up? Do you have a website people can go to?
Yeah, yeah. You can go to transrecmovie.com. It brings everything is on. I intertwined all my websites. So if you go to transrecmovie.com, you can see my film, and that's about it. I really enjoyed my time here with you,
Yeah,
Christopher,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
I appreciate it a lot.
All right.
And
Thanks again, Frank. We're running out of time here, but thanks again. Everybody have a great day, and we'll get this out soon. Thanks.
all the glory to God. God bless you.